So, I wrote my paper about how the internet affects young adolescents in life. And some of the things that I talked about pertain to the fact that students or kids or adolescents or young adults, teenagers are really affected by the influence of technology per se. I feel like technology has a great impact on students' lives as a whole. Teenagers, however you want to go about that, they have nowadays they have technology implemented in everything they do. It's mainly towards the school base. A lot of technology is being used instead of like paper for tests and for books and stuff like that, just to be more cost efficient. And this isn't always a negative thing. Sometimes using technology for cost efficiencies is good. But however, when it comes to communication skills, some students lack because of the technology that's being implemented into their lives, as well as some students lack in skills of being communication to have friends, develop friendships, relationships. People lack in these things from technology being so implemented into their lives. Some students cannot communicate well with other students or people with a higher ranking than them, like teachers or adults, because they're so used to doing things over technology like social media, things like the internet, as where when you get into a face-to-face conversation, certain things that you would have said over text you wouldn't say in person. So they're having a lot more of a hard time communicating with people about simple things, simple tasks. And that's a lot about what I cover in my paper. I cover how it's very hard for some students and some adolescents, kids, sometimes super little, have trouble learning communication because they've been so stuck on looking at a screen to learn how to communicate. And it's really hard to teach without hands on when it comes to things like communication, just because you need to learn, you need to get the feel of the environment. And that's something that I talk about. I also talk about how I think that the implementation of technology is a real big influence of bullying at such a young age. Towards the end of my paper, I talk about how bullying is something that starts out when kids are exposed to technology at such a young age. And that goes along with communication because feelings are a lot more exposed over the internet, social media, technology. It's a lot more exposed. People put a lot more of their personal life out on the internet nowadays because it's so easy just to press a button and it's out there. With that being said, that's also very easy for someone to tear it down by seeing that. And there's nothing you can do once it's uploaded to the internet. It's there, it's done, it's over with. But that's just one of the things that I cover in my paper, how with it being such a thing that's implemented to someone who's so young and doesn't know how to properly use technology in an effective way rather than to tear another person down, it's really hard for people at such a young age to learn a control, a constant, when to stop, when to start, when to complete, when to finish, when all they learn is how to look at a screen, all they learn is how to click buttons, and they don't really learn how to do things hands-on in real life with paper, with pencil, with pen. Technology is not a negative thing. Sometimes technology helps you improve, it helps things develop. But when it's exposed to kids at such a young age, they sometimes don't know how to process how to use that. They sometimes don't know what's good and what's bad. And so when you give them too much of something that's good, it becomes bad. And that's something that I cover in my paper. So overall, my paper is really just about how technology, things like the internet, social media, and stuff like that, is a big influence in adolescents' life, and it's not always a bad thing if it's used in the proper manner and if it's used in small doses. If you have a certain amount that you give someone so young, just because you can't give someone so young such a big responsibility and such big access to something like the entire world. And I feel like that's what my paper is mainly about, and that's what my paper covers. Thank you.